I think a lot of you may know me. Those who don't, I'm Aisha, and I will have my sous chef, California, who will be helping me alongside. She is my right hand, so she's going to be assisting me. So if you see her around, let me just introduce her to you guys quickly. So that's California. She's here with me, and say hello to her.
Hi everyone.
Okay, so we're going to lift this thing up now so that everyone can see us, and then when we're cooking, then I'm just going to put the screen down so that we can focus on the pots and the pans. I'm going to first start with a few ingredients: the turmeric, the salt, the cardamom, the whole black pepper, the cloves, the ginger and the garlic, and we will place that with our spices and our meat into a pot and start with basically cooking that part of the mutton first. We will then move on to dry roasting the masala for the meat, the spices. So we'll dry roast that, we'll use a pestle and mortar, and we will grind that up and keep it ready as well. Then after that, while the chicken is getting done, I think what we'll do is we'll put the rice up, just so that everyone is on the same page. And by then and we can prepare the garlic sauce as well in the meantime while the mutton is getting done. And then basically we will just finish the mutton off towards the end and then put it all together. In the meantime, if the mutton is not done, we will move on to the mango kheer, and we can finish that up so that that can also cool down and that we've got it all ready by the time we're done with the session. So we'll I've got a little pot that's here, and what I'm going to do is I am going to quickly move on to page 2, which says brine the meat overnight or for a few hours in the brine mixture, drain and dry. So this has been done already. I am going to add this meat into my pot, and in that goes the ginger. So all the ingredients for the first part of it, which is your cloves, your garlic, your cardamom and your black pepper, also goes in. A little bit of salt goes in, turmeric goes in, and garlic goes in. Whole garlic, I'm using whole garlic here. I'm going to pop in some water here, and we're going to leave that to cook. As soon as that comes to boil, we'll reduce the heat, and we will obviously let this cook and soften up while we move on to the other stuff. We are going to add just about enough water. I also don't want to add too much, because when you do add too much, what you're going to do is, while waiting for the water to dry out, you might end up overcooking the meat and then waiting for the water to sort of get dry, and then you might end up losing all the juices and the flavor that's part of the meat. So the meat has been brined, which will obviously make it a lot easier for us to cook and get this done. So I'm going to pop the lid on, wait for it to boil, and once it boils, then what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the temperature and leave it to sort of cook and tenderize and get soft. Right, so then I am going to move on. So I'm going to move this pot here, which will make it easier for you guys to see. And then what I'm going to do here is I've got a frying pan, a non-stick frying pan. You can use any pan. And we're going to move on to the masala powder, which is the spices that we need to roast and grind. And that will be used as a seasoning, obviously, to season our meat when the meat is cooked, right? So we move on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start adding all these whole spices. And what we want to do, the chili flakes and the coriander will go in towards the end. I've got green cardamom, cloves, fennel seeds, and what we want to do is we want to just dry roast this on a low heat. So often I find, in my opinion, add your spices when your pan is still a little bit cold, so they sort of heat with your pan instead of obviously adding it to a hot pan already, and what happens is we end up burning those spices straight away instead of getting all the flavors out. Spices are coming to heat nicely. The meat has come to a boil, so I'm going to bring the heat down, and on medium to low heat we are going to cook that meat, and while that gets going obviously we'll do the other part of it. Right, now that these spices are done, I am going to add the chili flakes, the coriander powder as well, so remember to cook your spices also on low heat, not on high heat. We want to slow roast them, we don't want to burn them. Alright, and my cinnamon powder also goes in. So at a point where when you know, like when your spices are done, is you will straight away start smelling these spices. Your kitchen should fill up with the smell of the spices, and that's when you know that your spices are done. When your spices are roasted, give it a minute, give it about 5 or 10 minutes or so just for them to cool down. There are certain spices that end up releasing oil, and when you sort of grind them when they're very hot, you'll find that your spices will end up releasing oil, so you don't want that. So allow it to sort of just come back to a little bit of a room temperature before you grind them. So we're going to do this, and then we are going to wait for it to cool down a little bit before I use my pestle and mortar and I grind this up. Okay, so then you can either put it in a coffee grinder or you can use a pestle and mortar. If you don't have either of those, then I suggest put it in a Ziploc and use your rolling pin and just bash it out, and then just grind your spices. And my pestle and mortar is super old. It's traveled along with me everywhere, from one country to another to another. And when people ask me where did I get my one from, I really can't even respond and say, because mine is so old, and California is just giving me a new pestle to grind these spices. But literally last year when I traveled to Burma, I wanted to get a pestle and mortar and bring it with me all the way, and my kids looked at me and they said, no way in hell. So when I traveled, you know, these are the things that I look for, and that's why half of the things that I've got in my kitchen, I can't even respond to my followers and let them know where, because I feel so bad, as if they think that I don't want to tell them. But literally when I travel, those are the things that I look for. Yes, the aroma in my kitchen, love it. My mother-in-law had one, but don't know what happened. You want to really look for the thick, heavy one, because I think that's really what makes a big difference. Right, same frying pan that we use to roast our spices. We just want to get a dry cloth and we want to just wipe the spices off. Not because of anything else, but only because if we keep on using it with the spices, it may burn as we're cooking our onions, and we don't want that. You've got ghee that's ready here. We've got about half of a cup of ghee that's ready here. And we're going to add that in the same pan. What to do is, it says heat the ghee in a pan and fry the onions on medium heat for a minute or two. So at this stage we don't want to cook the onions or brown the onions or make them golden or whatever. We just want to basically saute it and make it slightly pink. We're going to do this on high heat. Right, ghee is hot. We're going to add the onions. Nice guy. Alright, so just about a minute or so, and then we add in the green chilies. So I've got slit green chilies here. So I've simply just taken green chilies and I've slit them. So about quarters, and that goes in along with the curry leaves. And then we're going to fry this until it's light golden in color. What you guys can do for me is we will cook the rice out in the oven. So Aisha and Sarah, if you can please put your oven on 180 and just leave it to preheat. I want your racks to be just one up from the bottom. So one below the middle and one above from the bottom. That's where your pot is going to go. So the rice that you're going to cook, the pot that you're going to be using to cook the rice, please make sure it fits into your oven. And I want to add the ginger and garlic. So adding it any earlier will obviously stop the browning process and we won't get the golden color that we're looking for. So you really want it to come to this stage and then add the ginger and garlic. I agree, it's what you're most comfortable with. Time what I've done is just my half cup of mixed fresh mint and the coriander leaves going in here, the green chili is going in here, the salt is going in here, and the sugar is also gone in with the coriander, cumin seeds, cumin powder, and some fresh garlic. What the sugar does for us is it will help us to grind the herbs together instead of adding any liquid. I have the pestle and mortar and I'm just going to go in and start grinding. Alright, so that's done as well. We're going to give it a taste. Seasoning is really important. I could easily give a recipe, but I think everyone's palates are very different, so taste for seasoning. Pop this in the fridge and it's for us to use a bit later. It is a bit hot, so I think it's best when it stays in the fridge at this stage. And then what we'll do is we will move on to our rice dish. Low heat. We're starting off with ghee. And once again, we're going to let this come to heat slowly. And while you guys are doing this, just make sure that your kettle is on. We're going to need hot water. I am using basmati rice here and I've soaked it for approximately about 15 to 20 minutes. If you soak it for much longer, it tends to go softer and I find the grains break whilst cooking. So if you guys follow me, then you'll know I'm very big on open fluffy rice grains, and that's like a big thing for me. So I find so it's just something when it comes to basmati. If you're cooking with Sela basmati, then you can obviously leave it for another extra 10 minutes. And once the spices starts crackling, what we're going to do is we're going to switch the heat off, add rice, add salt, and in 2.5 cups of rice, I am going to add 4 cups of water. And we are going to put it in the oven at 180 for approximately an hour or so. Right, so my spices are done nicely, they heated through nicely. And what I'm going to do is I will remove my pot from heat, add the soaked rice. So exactly in this case we want to measure, so I've got a measurement of a cup here and I'm going to go in with exactly 4 cups. So 2.5 cups of rice, 4 cups of water. And salt going in. If you wanted to make this more sort of nicer, you could even drop in a pinch of saffron here as well. and that also would flavor your rice really nicely. Right, so we'll give it one quick stir and then cover it with the lid, and it goes into your preheated oven. So the quarter cup of milk gone in, the rice gone in. Waiting for the milk to boil, and in the same pestle and mortar I am going to grind my almonds in milk once my milk boils. So alright, so now the rice going in to our milk, and we will obviously just leave it to come back to boil, and once it comes to boil we'll add the sugar, the cardamom, and we will leave it to cook and reduce. In the pestle and mortar I am adding almonds. I've got about half a cup of almonds here, and mine is grounded already, so it's not going to take long. If you are using whole almonds, then you might need to give it a bit of you might need to have another bit of workout with your almonds. Once the milk comes to boil, I'm going to add my sugar, cardamom, and I am going to leave this to kind of reduce, and then we'll move on to our mutton and see what's going on there. So all that sugar going in, and also the cardamom going in as well, because I really want the cardamom flavor to come through. So immediately you'll see that the milk has become now diluted, because the sugar starts releasing its moisture, and that's why I prefer adding the sugar and cooking it. And straight away with this I am actually going to add my almonds as well. You can add your almonds or you can add it later on. I prefer to add my almonds at this stage, but either ways it's not going to make any difference to the recipe. The only thing that I do want you guys to do is to add the sugar and allow it to cook. Right, so the almond also going in, the ground almonds. Right, so while we do that, the kheer, I am going to leave it on medium high. It is boiling, not on very low, medium high, and I want it to thicken and I want it to come to a certain point. So we're going to let it do its thing, and I think what we can do is we can finally move on to the mutton while this sort of reduces and gets thick. We start with bringing our onions back to heat. So this is why I didn't want to start with a lot of water, because have a look here, there is still about a cup or so of liquid that's here, and all of that will go in to our onion mix here. And what I've got is my spice that we prepared, the ground spice, and the garam masala will go in towards the very end. Alright, so now I'm just grabbing my mutton, and what I'm doing, okay, so I really just want to grab the mutton pieces first, and the stock I want to drain, strain it, because I don't want to add the garlic and the whole spices. We've managed to sort of get all the flavors that we needed from there. So the stock we strain, and then we add that stock into the onions mix here. I'm going to just strain this liquid. That's the liquid I'm left with. I'm going to strain it. I'm going to get rid of all the whole spices, and we're going to add that into our stock, into our meat. We are just going to strain this over the mutton. Right. Now, on medium heat, we add the ground spice that we did, the very first spice mix. That's the only one that you've got left now, along with the garam masala. So the first lot of spice will now go in here, and we will now start frying this meat till we've got a nice rich golden sort of feel to our meat. So your meat should start getting glossier, and you will start seeing the ghee starts appearing on top. We want this the masala, but we don't want any water in the masala. So it's not a very loose kind of a curry. It's a fairly thick curry with all the spices sort of coming together, all the ingredients coming together. So if we have a look at the kheer now, if I could just show you guys, it's getting nice and thick. The rice is definitely cooked. So this is bubbling away, and mine was also quite high, but I'm going to bring it back. So it was on 8, I'm going to bring it back to number 6 because I kind of want it to thicken a little bit more, but at a more balanced heat than compared to a very high heat. Right, so while this gets done, I'm going to get to my pot. Bring the pot of rice here, and let's see what that rice is doing. So open up my pot of rice. Let's see what this rice is doing. And that's it, it's done. Ingredients for the onions, the pickled onions, the lemon juice, the chili flakes, the salt, the coriander. We'll give it a mix, and then we can start plating the dishes, the main out. Right, so I'm going to grab a squarish platter. You can use any platter that you want. I want it to be flat if you can. Go in the oven, and it'll kind of just sit in a warmer. Mutton on the rocks. Want to lose any of these juices, any of these spices. So much flavor here. Okay, so if anyone wants to see what it looks like at this stage, this is what it looks like. And just before serving, then what we'll do is we'll just sprinkle the onions. I'll show you guys. I'm going to just close this with the foil, and I'm going to leave it in my warm oven just so that it stays warm and it doesn't get cold. And then by the time we're done with the kheer, we should just put it all together. Right, so what I'm going to do, just to speed up the process a little bit, I'm going to place this pot on a bowl of cold water, so that we can just let it come to room temperature, and then we can mix our mango puree and we can put it all together. Right, so here we're going to go in with a cold mango puree. So I've got the cold mango puree here, and that gets added to the kheer. And I've still left it on my water there because I want it to sort of just not get, I don't want to bring the temperature too much down or whatever. And then we can start assembling our kheer. Now I'll just start placing it in my glasses. We're doing glasses. You can do a bowl as well. Alright, so we're starting with a little bit of mango puree at the bottom of the glass. 1 cup got mixed with the kheer, and then the remainder we're starting at the bottom of the glass. I'm going to top it with some more of the mango. If you don't have, that's perfectly fine. You can do cut mangoes, mango pieces, or you can omit the mango as well. And lastly, we are going to garnish it with some pistachios, slivered, and some almonds. And that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed our workshop. And I hope that you, if you haven't done it today, you at least recreate it at some point and let me know what you guys think of it. And for the rice, I'm basically just going to drizzle some yogurt on top, the prepared yogurt, just before serving, and the onions on the side. I will post a picture of it later for you guys to have a look as well. I'll post it on the WhatsApp group. I just don't want to do it now because I need to rush and get my son from school. And but I will definitely, all we're going to do is simply drizzle the yogurt over the mutton, and we're going to do the onions, and we'll sprinkle the coriander. But I'll definitely post the pictures on the group for you guys to have a look. From my side, Jazakallah so much for giving me the opportunity, for joining in, for making me feel like it was worth spending your morning with me, not for anything else, but for the, you know, for the love of what we're here for, and for what the actual reason was. I really appreciate Aisha and team Muslim Hands for approaching me, for giving me the opportunity to do this. May Allah reward them, and may it be beneficial to the Muslims and to everyone else that's been part of this workshop.